I still remember Colonel Hayes's words that night. They echo in my mind like a prayer I used to believe in. Marriage is built on one thing above all: loyalty. You stand by each other no matter what. You protect each other. You honor your vows. Without loyalty, you have nothing. Emma and I clinked glasses under the string lights, her eyes sparkling with what I thought was love. The words felt sacred, binding, true. Her father had raised her right, I thought. A decorated military veteran with 30 years of service, the kind of man who spoke in principles and expected the same from others. The kind of man who believed in honor above all else. I believed we had that honor. I was wrong. My name is Nathan Foster. I'm 34 years old, a senior logistics analyst at a freight company. Steady income, reliable career, the kind of man who plans meticulously and values loyalty above all else. I'm calm, methodical, deliberate. The kind of husband who remembers anniversaries and keeps his promises. Emma is 31. Was 31 when our marriage meant something. She hasn't worked since our second year of marriage. I want to focus on us, she said. Those green eyes I fell in love with looking up at me with such sincerity. Build our home, I agreed without hesitation. That sounds perfect. We can make this work. I made enough to support us both. And we lived comfortably in a modest 2-story house I'd bought before we married, my investment in our future. We met at a mutual friend's cookout, bonded over shared love of hiking and old westerns. She'd laugh at the corniest John Wayne lines, curl up against me during Sunday afternoon movie marathons. We dated for 2 years, married in a beautiful outdoor ceremony surrounded by family and friends who believed in us. No children yet. Emma said she wasn't ready, wanted to focus on building our foundation first. I respected that. I thought we had all the time in the world. For 4 years, I believed we had that loyalty Colonel Hayes spoke about. Life was good. Weekend hikes through mountain trails, quiet dinners where we actually talked to each other, movie marathons with old westerns playing on the TV while Emma made her comments about every plot twist. She was my partner, my confidant, my future. I worked long hours but came home to warmth, to laughter, to a woman who seemed content with the life we'd built together. But year 5 brought changes, subtle at first like shadows creeping across a sunny room. Emma growing distant, intimacy dwindling to nothing, always tired, always distracted. She started taking frequent shopping trips that lasted hours with no bags to show for them. Girls' nights became routine, 2 or 3 times a week, always with friends I'd never heard her mention before. Her phone became a fortress, always face down when she was home, password protected where it never had been before. She showered immediately after coming home from these mysterious outings, washing away traces of wherever she'd really been. She smiled less, touched me less, seemed somewhere else even when we sat together on the couch watching those old movies that used to make her laugh. I noticed everything. I'm methodical by nature, detail-oriented. It's what makes me good at my job. I cataloged inconsistencies like data points in a spreadsheet, receipts that didn't match her stories, perfume that smelled different when she returned home. Laughter I heard through the phone before she quickly hung up when I entered the room. The woman who used to greet me at the door with a kiss now barely looked up from her phone when I came home. Conversations became surface level, functional, grocery lists and utility bills instead of dreams and inside jokes. The life we'd built felt like a stage set, beautiful from a distance but hollow when you got close enough to see behind the facade. I didn't confront her. Not yet. That's not how I operate. I watched. I waited. I paid attention. I treated my suspicions like a case study, gathering evidence, looking for patterns, building a complete picture before making any moves. One night, as Emma slept beside me in our bed that had become as cold as a morgue, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. The digital clock cast red numbers across the darkness. 2:47 a.m. I thought about Colonel Hayes's speech from our wedding night. About loyalty, about vows, about what happens when someone breaks them. My suspicions had grown into certainty, the kind of certainty that sits in your chest like a stone, cold and heavy and undeniable. I just needed proof. I needed to see it with my own eyes before I decided what to do about it. But even then, lying in the darkness next to a woman who had become a stranger, I already knew one thing. Betrayal demanded consequences. And those consequences would be as deliberate and methodical as everything else I did in life. For 4 years, I believed we had loyalty. I was wrong. And by the time I discovered the truth, it was already too late. For her. The phone rang at 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I remember the exact time because I'd just finished reviewing shipment schedules for the Portland route. And I always checked the clock when completing tasks, a habit that would become more important than I could have imagined. Unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something made me answer. "Is this Nathan Foster?" the voice asked. It was official, clipped, professional in that way that immediately sets your nerves on edge. "Yes, who is this?" I replied. "This is 911 Emergency Services, sir. Your wife, Emma Foster, has been shot. She's been transported to Mercy General Hospital. Her condition is critical. You should come immediately." The words hit me like physical blows. The spreadsheet on my computer screen blurred. My chair seemed to tilt sideways. "Shot? How? Who? What happened?" I stammered. "We'll explain when you arrive, sir." "Please come to the hospital," the operator responded. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, the screen still showing the call duration. 47 seconds. 47 seconds to learn that your wife has been shot. 47 seconds for your entire world to shift on its axis. I grabbed my keys with hands that I forced to stay steady, told my manager there was a family emergency, and walked, didn't run, to my car. Running would have drawn attention, questions, concerned coworkers wanting to help. I needed to be alone with my thoughts during the 20-minute drive to the hospital. My mind raced during that drive, but not in panic. In calculation, shot? Who shot her? Where was she when it happened? Was she alone? The questions formed orderly lines in my head, waiting for answers that I somehow knew would change everything. I pulled into the hospital parking lot at 4:23 p.m., parked in the first available space, and walked through the emergency room doors. The antiseptic smell hit me immediately, that universal hospital odor of bleach and fear and other people's tragedies. Emma Foster, where is she? I asked the receptionist, my voice carrying exactly the right note of worried husband urgency. A nurse directed me to a family waiting area, beige walls, uncomfortable chairs, the kind of room designed for delivering bad news. Minutes crawled by like hours. I sat perfectly still, hands folded in my lap, breathing steadily, preparing for whatever came next. Dr. Rivera approached, mid-40s, surgical scrubs still on, exhausted eyes that had seen too much. His badge read, "Emergency Surgery." "Mr. Foster?" he called. I stood. "How is she?" "What happened?" I asked urgently. "Your wife was shot 3 times, chest, abdomen, shoulder. She's in surgery now. The next few hours are critical, but she's alive. We're doing everything we can," he explained. 3 times. Professional, efficient, thorough. I felt my knees weaken appropriately, let confusion and shock play across my face like I was hearing this for the first time. "Who did this to her?" I demanded. 2 police officers approached. Detective Morgan, late 30s, sharp eyes that missed nothing, and Officer Davis, younger, taking notes. They moved like people who delivered life-changing news for a living. "Mr. Foster, we need to talk," Detective Morgan said, her voice measured, serious, giving nothing away. We sat in a private room down the hall. I forced my hands to shake slightly, let my breathing become shallow and rapid, the physiological responses of a man whose world had just shattered. I focused on playing the part perfectly while my mind stayed ice-cold clear. Detective Morgan pulled out a notepad, pen poised. "Your wife was found at a cabin about 40 miles outside the city. We received a call from Colonel Richard Hayes, your father-in-law. He confessed to shooting her and another individual at the scene," she explained. I let my face go completely blank, mouth opening slightly as if the words wouldn't process. "What, the colonel? Why would he—" "I don't understand," I said, confusion evident in my voice. "He told us he discovered your wife was having an affair." He confronted them at the cabin. Shots were fired. The man, identified as Kyle Brennan, 29, was killed at the scene. "Your wife was critically wounded," Officer Davis added. Silence hung heavy in the small room. I let it stretch, leaning forward slightly as if trying to grasp something that wouldn't take shape in my mind. Perfect confusion. Perfect shock. An affair? My voice cracked convincingly on the word. Emma was having an affair? Officer Davis leaned forward, pen ready. You didn't know? He asked. No, I had no idea, I replied, looking at the floor and covering my face with my hands in a gesture of complete devastation. She said she was going shopping, visiting friends. I trusted her completely. Did you have any suspicions about your wife's behavior recently? Detective Morgan pressed. I hesitated, a calculated pause that suggested a man reconsidering everything he thought he knew about his life. Maybe she'd been distant lately. I thought we were just going through a rough patch. Married couples do that, right? I never imagined... I stopped, shook my head as if the thought was too overwhelming to complete. Who is Kyle Brennan? I asked. We're still investigating his connection to your wife. Mr. Foster, where were you this afternoon between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m.? Detective Morgan inquired. At work. I was at my desk all day. You can check with my manager, my co-workers, our electronic clock-in system. I had lunch at my desk around 12:30. I remember because I was working on the Portland shipping schedules, I answered. Detective Morgan made careful notes. We will verify that. Have you been to this cabin before? She asked. I didn't even know it existed, I replied honestly. Do you have any reason to want to harm your wife or Kyle Brennan? She continued. I looked Detective Morgan dead in the eye, my expression a mixture of pain and bitter honesty. I didn't even know Kyle Brennan existed until 5 minutes ago. As for Emma? I paused, letting genuine bitterness enter my voice. If what you're saying is true, if she was cheating on me, then honestly, I don't know if I even care whether she lives or dies. But I didn't shoot her. I was at work. I was always at work? The detectives exchanged glances. The statement was cold but believable. A betrayed husband's raw honesty, the kind of brutal truth that people tell when their world collapses. Detective Morgan closed her notepad. All right, Mr. Foster, we'll verify your alibi and be in touch. You're free to go, she announced. I stood slowly, shoulders slumped, hands in pockets, the perfect image of a devastated husband walking through a nightmare. Can I see her? I asked quietly. She's still in surgery. It'll be several hours, Dr. Rivera replied. I nodded, shuffled toward the door with the gait of a man carrying a weight too heavy to bear. I'll be back later. I need to process this, I said. I walked out of that hospital, through the lobby filled with other people's crises, past the information desk and the gift shop selling flowers for healthier relationships, out into the parking lot where the late afternoon sun felt obscene in its normalcy. I reached my car, sat behind the wheel, stared at nothing for exactly 60 seconds, long enough for any security cameras to capture a man in shock. Then my expression changed. The devastation faded. Something colder replaced it. Satisfaction mixed with calculation. They think I'm a fool. Perfect. Let them. The detectives thought they were looking at a man who'd just discovered his wife's betrayal. They were wrong. I'd known for weeks. And what I did with that knowledge, that's what really ruined her life. The drive back from that hospital parking lot transported me into memory as clearly as if I were watching a movie of my own life. 3 weeks ago, when suspicion turned into certainty, and certainty turned into something much more dangerous. 3 weeks earlier, the GPS tracker arrived on a Thursday morning. Small enough to fit in my palm, magnetic, undetectable unless you knew exactly where to look. I'd ordered it from a security company website during my lunch break, paid with a prepaid credit card purchased with cash 3 towns over. No digital trail. No electronic footprints. Just a simple device that would tell me where my wife really went during those mysterious shopping trips. For months, things had been wrong. Not just different, wrong. Emma was distant in ways that went beyond tired or stressed. She'd developed new habits, showers immediately after coming home, phone always face down, new perfume I'd never seen her buy. Her girls' nights had become routine 2 or 3 times a week. Always with friends she mentioned by name, but never described, never brought home, never seemed to have actual history with. I'm methodical by nature. I noticed patterns. I collect data, and the data was telling me a story I didn't want to believe but couldn't ignore. The tracker installation took 15 seconds. Emma was upstairs showering. Another new habit after her Wednesday lunch with Sarah, and I walked to her car in our driveway, knelt beside the rear bumper, and attached the magnetic device in a spot where it would never be found. My hands didn't shake. My heart rate stayed normal. This was just another problem to solve, another system to analyze. For a week, I monitored her movements on the tracking app during work hours. Grocery store, gym, coffee shop. Everything checked out. Emma's digital footprint matched her stated activities perfectly. I almost felt relieved. Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe the distance was just stress from her mother's health problems. Maybe marriage had natural ebbs and flows I didn't understand. Then, on a Thursday afternoon, her car traveled 47 miles outside the city limits, deep into rural woods, nowhere near anything Emma had ever mentioned visiting. The GPS coordinates showed her car stationary in what appeared to be wilderness, miles from the nearest town or legitimate business. I checked my watch, 11:43 a.m. My lunch break was in 17 minutes. I informed my manager I was stepping out for lunch, got in my car and followed those coordinates. The drive felt surreal, highway giving way to country roads narrowing to dirt paths, civilization disappearing in my rearview mirror. My mind stayed blank, no anger yet, no conclusions, just cold, methodical focus on gathering information. I parked half a mile from the GPS location and walked through the trees. November air cut through my jacket like a blade. Leaves crunched under my boots with each step. I moved carefully, quietly, like I was tracking an animal that might bolt if it detected my presence. The cabin appeared through the branches like something from a fairy tale. Small, isolated, wood-sided, with smoke curling from the chimney. 2 cars in the narrow driveway, Emma's sedan and a silver pickup truck I didn't recognize. I approached from the side, keeping low, using the dense tree line for cover. Each step was calculated, purposeful, bringing me closer to whatever truth waited inside those walls. I reached the side window, pressed myself against the rough wood siding, and peered through the gap in the curtains. Emma sat on a man's lap on a leather couch. She was laughing, really laughing, the way she used to laugh with me 3 years ago but hadn't in months. The man had his arms around her waist, hands familiar and comfortable on her body like they'd been there many times before. They were drinking wine from glasses that suggested this wasn't a quick meeting but an established routine. She leaned in and kissed him. Slow, intimate. Not the kiss of a new affair, but of established intimacy. Her hands moved through his hair with practiced familiarity. He was younger than me, maybe 28 or 29, with the kind of easy smile that suggested he'd never worried about mortgages or retirement plans or any of the adult responsibilities that had shaped my life. My vision tunneled. Blood pounded in my ears like a drum. Every muscle in my body tensed with barely controlled rage that threatened to explode outward in ways that would destroy everything I'd built. I could see it so clearly, kicking down the door, dragging him outside by his throat, beating him until his face was unrecognizable and my hands were broken and Emma was screaming for me to stop. But that meant prison. That meant losing everything. That meant I would pay the price for her betrayal while she walked away with victim status, with sympathy, with people saying he couldn't control his anger and she's better off without him. I forced myself to breathe, to think, to be methodical even while rage tried to consume rational thought. I pulled out my phone with hands that shook despite my efforts to control them, opened the camera app, and recorded 15 seconds of video. Emma on his lap, his face clearly visible, the cabin interior recognizable, the timestamp embedded in the metadata. Undeniable proof that could never be explained away or gaslit into something innocent. I backed away from the window slowly, moved through the trees back to my car, sat in the driver's seat while my heart hammered against my ribs. The video sat on my phone like a grenade with the pin pulled, evidence that would destroy multiple lives the moment it was deployed. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted to drive back there and burn the cabin down with both of them inside. Instead, I thought about Colonel Hayes, about his wedding speech, about loyalty and honor and principles, about a man who had spent 30 years in the military, who lived by a code, who had raised his daughter to value vows and commitment above personal desire. What would the colonel do if he knew his daughter was betraying everything he taught her? An idea formed in my mind, cold, calculated, perfect in its simplicity. I opened my laptop right there in the car, connected to a VPN service through multiple proxy servers, created a new anonymous email account with no identifying information. I attached the video file and typed one sentence: "Your daughter is at this cabin. Thought you should know." I sent it to Colonel Hayes's email address, the one I had from our family group chat about holiday plans and birthday celebrations. Then I deleted the sent message, wiped the browser history, cleared my phone's metadata, removed the GPS tracker from Emma's car during my drive back to work, and clocked in at 1:14 p.m. Right on time. Perfectly normal. I exchanged pleasantries with coworkers, finished my afternoon reports, attended a 3 p.m. meeting about shipping delays, clocked out at 5:03 p.m. like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't just set an irreversible chain of events in motion. That night, Emma came home at 8:47 p.m., smelling faintly of cologne that wasn't mine and shower soap that wasn't ours. "How was your day?" she asked, kissing my cheek with lips that had been on another man hours earlier. "Same as always," I replied, smiling naturally, easily. "How was yours?" "Good. Just ran some errands with Sarah. I'm exhausted," she responded, the lie rolling off her tongue with practiced ease. I watched her walk upstairs to shower, washing away evidence, destroying proof, continuing the lie that had become her default mode of operation. Every step she took felt like another nail in her own coffin. I poured myself a whiskey, sat on our couch, and waited for the inevitable. I didn't know when the colonel would act. Maybe that night. Maybe the next day. Maybe he'd try to talk to Emma first, give her a chance to explain. Maybe he'd confront me, demand to know if I was aware of what his daughter was doing. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. If he did act, I'd be exactly where I needed to be, at work. Innocent, uninvolved, with an alibi no one could break. Back to the present. Over the following week, I was questioned 3 more times. Each interrogation followed the same methodical pattern. Detective Morgan and Officer Davis probing for inconsistencies, testing my story, watching my body language for tells that would reveal deception. I provided calm, detailed answers that never contradicted, never wavered, never strayed from the simple truth. I was at work when my wife was shot. I knew nothing about her affair, and I was as shocked as anyone by the colonel's actions. Detective Morgan wasn't easily satisfied. She was thorough, persistent, the kind of investigator who solved cases through patience and attention to detail. She verified every element of my life. My work manager confirmed the timeline. Nathan Foster clocked in at 8:47 a.m. on the day of the shooting, took lunch at his desk from 12:30 to 1:15 p.m., worked continuously until 5:03 p.m. Security footage showed me in the break room microwaving leftover pasta, sitting at my desk reviewing shipping schedules, attending a brief meeting with the Portland logistics team at 3 p.m. My computer logs showed continuous activity throughout the day. Emails sent, reports filed, system logins every 15 minutes like clockwork. Co-workers confirmed seeing me throughout the day. Jennifer from accounting remembered discussing invoice discrepancies with me at 2:15 p.m. Mark from transportation recalled my input during the afternoon meeting about delivery route optimization. Ordinary interactions that created an unshakable timeline of innocence. They pulled my phone records going back 6 months. No calls or texts to Colonel Hayes except routine family communications, birthday wishes, holiday plans, the mundane digital traces of normal in-law relationships. No calls to the cabin location. No suspicious outgoing messages on the day of the shooting or in the weeks leading up to it. They examined my car's GPS navigation history and recent mileage with a warrant I welcomed. No record of me driving 47 miles out of the city to any remote cabin. My documented routes showed only predictable patterns: home to office, office to home, weekly trips to the grocery store, occasional visits to the gym. Nothing that suggested surveillance or stalking behavior. The search of our home computer revealed browsing history that was aggressively normal. work emails, news sites, hiking trail reviews, Amazon purchases for household items. No GPS tracking software. No searches for how to hire a hitman or how to make murder look like an accident. No. Digital breadcrumbs that would lead back to anonymous email accounts or proxy servers. The anonymous email sent to Colonel Hayes became a central focus of their investigation. Tech forensics traced it to a burner email account created through a VPN service with multiple proxy layers. The video file's metadata had been stripped clean. No identifying information about whose phone recorded it, when it was taken, or what device uploaded it. The digital trail ended in a maze of encrypted connections that led nowhere. Detective Morgan sat across from me in that same hospital conference room for what she promised would be our final interview. Her frustration was palpable, professional composure cracking slightly around the edges. "Mr. Foster, I'll be honest with you. Something about this entire situation doesn't sit right with me. The timing is too convenient. Your wife is having an affair. Someone sends evidence to her father. He shoots her the same day. You benefit from all of this," she stated directly. I met her gaze steadily, calmly, letting a hint of bitter honesty enter my voice. "Benefit? My wife is in the hospital with permanent injuries that will affect her for the rest of her life. My father-in-law is facing murder charges. My marriage is destroyed. My reputation in this community is ruined. What about any of this benefits me?" I replied. "You're free of a cheating wife without having to pay alimony in a messy divorce. She's clearly the guilty party now," she countered. "I could have just divorced her. I didn't need her shot to end my marriage. Detective, if I wanted to hurt Emma, I had plenty of legal options that wouldn't have involved my father-in-law committing crimes," I responded. Detective Morgan tapped her pen against her notepad, a nervous habit that suggested the investigation wasn't proceeding as she'd hoped. Someone knew about that affair and wanted Colonel Hayes to find out. Someone with access to that cabin, someone who could document what was happening there. "Who would do something like that?" she pressed. I shrugged, maintaining perfect eye contact. "Maybe Kyle's wife, if he has one. Maybe a friend who knew about them and disapproved. Maybe a neighbor who saw cars at the cabin and got suspicious. Maybe someone with a personal grudge against Emma or Kyle. I don't know, Detective. I wish I did. But it wasn't me. I was at work, surrounded by witnesses, doing my job like any other Tuesday," I answered. "Your alibi is perfect, Mr. Foster. Too perfect," she observed. "Would you prefer I was guilty of something? Would that make your job easier?" I asked. "I'd prefer the truth," she replied firmly. I stood slowly, buttoning my jacket with deliberate movements. "The truth is that my wife betrayed our marriage vows with another man. Her father found out about it and went to confront her. He brought a gun and used it. Those are the facts. Whether my alibi is too perfect or just accurate doesn't change what actually happened," I stated. I walked out of that conference room knowing I would never be questioned again. Without physical evidence, without holes in my timeline, without any traceable connection between Nathan Foster and the anonymous email that started everything, I was officially cleared and removed from the suspect list. Emma survived, barely. 2 months in the hospital felt like a lifetime of consequences unfolding in slow motion. 5 surgeries to repair damage to her chest, abdomen, and shoulder. Permanent nerve damage in her left arm that would never fully heal. Scars that would never fade. Visible reminders of choices and consequences. A limp that months of physical therapy couldn't completely correct. When she was finally told that Kyle Brennan died at the scene, 3 shots to the chest, dead before paramedics arrived, she collapsed into sobs that lasted for hours. The man she thought she loved, the man she'd risked everything for, was gone forever because of what they'd done together. She was told her father confessed immediately, cooperated fully with police, showed no remorse for killing Kyle but profound regret for shooting his own daughter. She was told that Nathan knew everything now, about the affair, about the cabin, about the 8 months of lies she'd told while looking him in the eye every single day. When she was discharged from the hospital, she couldn't return to the house she'd shared with me. I wouldn't allow it. She moved into her mother's house. Linda Hayes, a woman who aged a decade in 2 months, caring for her broken daughter while her husband sat in a cell awaiting trial. I sent divorce papers to Linda's address 2 weeks after Emma's discharge. Clean, simple, uncontested. No alimony demands because Emma was clearly at fault. No asset division fights because she had no legal standing to claim anything. No custody battles because there were no children to complicate matters. Emma signed those papers without reading them, without fighting, without demanding anything. She knew what she'd done. She knew I knew. There was nothing left to fight for. Colonel Richard Hayes was charged with second-degree murder for Kyle Brennan and attempted murder for Emma. His trial proceeded with military efficiency. He didn't fight the charges. Didn't claim self-defense, didn't attempt to minimize his responsibility. His attorney argued crime of passion, temporary insanity triggered by discovering his daughter's betrayal of everything he'd taught her. The prosecution presented the anonymous video as evidence of what provoked him, but could never identify who sent it or why. The colonel took the stand in his dress uniform, every ribbon and medal earned through decades of honorable service. His testimony was precise, unflinching, devastating in its honesty. I received evidence that my daughter was betraying her marriage vows. I went to the cabin to confront her. I saw them together doing what the video showed they were doing. I brought my service weapon because I am a soldier, and soldiers carry weapons. I fired that weapon. I killed Kyle Brennan. I almost killed my daughter. I was wrong to take the law into my own hands. I accept full responsibility for my actions. I dishonored myself, my family, and my years of service to this country, he testified. The jury deliberated for 3 hours and 14 minutes. Guilty on both counts. 20 years in prison. No possibility of parole for 15 years. I attended the sentencing, sitting in the back row, silent and invisible. When the verdict was read, the colonel's face showed no emotion, just acceptance of consequences. The same way he'd accepted orders throughout his military career, I felt nothing but acknowledgement. It was over. Justice had been served, not by my hand, but by the natural consequences of betrayal meeting honor. The colonel had done exactly what I'd known he would do, acted according to his principles, his code, his unshakable belief that loyalty and honor mattered more than personal comfort or family politics. And I had been exactly where I needed to be when it happened, at work, innocent, uninvolved, with an alibi that could never be broken. 1 year after the shooting, I sit on my back porch on a Saturday evening, beer cold in my hand, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and purple that would have seemed impossible a year ago. The house is quiet, cleaner than it's been in years, organized exactly the way I want it. Finally mine again in every sense that matters. I've been promoted at work, senior operations manager, substantial raise, corner office with windows that face east toward the sunrise. My colleagues know about what happened with Emma, but they don't press for details. They see a man who handled tragedy with dignity, who rebuilt his life after betrayal, who carries himself with quiet strength. They respect my privacy and my professionalism. I haven't remarried, haven't dated, haven't even tried. Maybe someday I'll be ready to trust someone again, to believe in partnership and shared futures and all the things I used to think marriage represented. But for now, I'm content with my routines, my work, my carefully ordered life that belongs entirely to me. Ranger lies at my feet, 65 pounds of German Shepherd loyalty and uncomplicated companionship. I adopted him 8 months ago from a local shelter, a 3-year-old dog whose previous owners abandoned him when they moved. He's been the perfect roommate. Protective without being aggressive, independent without being distant, loyal in ways that humans seem incapable of achieving. We go for long evening walks together through the neighborhood, past houses filled with families and laughter and all the things I used to believe I had. I don't miss it, not the way it actually was, at least. I miss what I thought I had, the illusion of partnership, the fantasy of mutual loyalty, the belief that my marriage meant something real and permanent. I think about Colonel Hayes sometimes, especially during these quiet evening hours when the world feels still and honest. A good man, honorable, disciplined, someone who lived by principles and expected others to do the same. He didn't deserve 20 years in prison, but he made his choice when he brought that service weapon to the cabin. He took the law into his own hands, and consequences don't bend for honor or good intentions. I wrote him a letter 6 months ago, after the appeals process failed and his sentence became final. Simple, respectful, honest. Colonel Hayes, I know you acted to defend principles you hold sacred. I understand why you did what you did. You taught me what loyalty truly means, and I've tried to live by that principle every day since our wedding. I hope you find peace wherever this road takes you. Nathan never received a reply. Don't expect one. The colonel probably knows or suspects more than he'd ever say out loud. But we understand each other in ways that don't require words or acknowledgement. Emma still lives with her mother, working part-time at a small bookstore downtown, moving slowly through life with her cane and her scars and her nightmares. Linda Hayes looks 20 years older now, caring for a daughter who will never fully heal while visiting a husband who will likely die in prison. Emma tried reaching out one more time. 3 months ago, another handwritten letter delivered to my mailbox. I burned it without reading past the first line. There was nothing left to say, nothing left to explain, nothing that could change what she'd done or what I'd done about it. Kyle Brennan's parents sued Emma's estate for wrongful death. She had nothing to give them. No assets, no savings, just medical debt and physical damage and the ruins of a life she'd destroyed with her own choices. They settled for a handwritten apology letter, tears staining the paper, worth nothing but acknowledgement of responsibility. I finish my beer, set the bottle down gently on the porch railing. Ranger lifts his head, tail wagging expectantly, ready for our evening walk through streets that feel safe and familiar and mine. Come on, buddy. Let's go, I say to him. We step off the porch together into the cool evening air. I breathe deep, free, unburdened, at peace with every decision I made throughout this entire ordeal. Some nights, when sleep comes slowly, I think about that 15-second video, about the anonymous email that started everything, about the chain of events I set in motion, about whether I should feel guilty for what happened to Emma, to Kyle, to the colonel. I don't. Not even a little. She made her choices when she decided 8 months of betrayal was worth more than 5 years of marriage. The colonel made his when he brought violence to solve a problem that could have been handled with words. I just provided information and let consequences unfold naturally, organically, according to the principles of honor and loyalty that should govern how people treat each other. I raise my empty bottle toward the fading sunset. Speak quietly to the twilight, to loyalty. Ranger barks once, sharp, certain, affirming. I smile, the first completely genuine smile in over a year. Yeah, buddy. To loyalty, I reply. We walk together into the gathering darkness, two loyal companions moving forward, leaving the wreckage of broken vows and shattered trust far behind us where it belongs, where it can never touch us again.